For today's critical thought, I want to discuss another issue when it comes to proper pacing and progression in games. And that's when developers have this tendency to hide the fun, which ends up just leaving you with a very unfun experience. At the end of 2022, I had a chance to play three very different Metroidvanias, yet all three suffered from the same problem that I'll be talking about in the coming minutes. But progression and pacing is once again those kinds of bread and butter topics when it comes to good game design and good UI UX. When a game doesn't have it, it can feel like a torture to play it, and it's oftentimes one of the leading cases of massive churn, where a game will lose 40-50% of its player base within an hour or even 30 minutes. Now, when we talk about hiding the fun, it is this idea of purposely making the game feel worse or annoying, or just leaving something that shouldn't be in the game at the start, to then have a solution, an upgrade, or something down the line that removes that. Now, I can think of several theories why developers like to do this. The first one is that it creates really good progression. This is very much in line with the progression model of idle games. That the first time you play through it, it is slow, it is ponderous, it will take you forever to do anything. Your first actual run in a idle style game can easily take 24 to 72 hours, even more than that. And that's the point. Once you do it that first time, then you unlock kind of the ascension modes. You unlock additional speeds and upgrades and researches. So something that would take you 24 hours could go to 7 hours, 5 hours, 2 minutes, 8 seconds, even when we get to some extreme examples. And it's the idea again of what makes progression systems so alluring, that you can see very clearly how far you've come. Where level 1 you do 10 points of damage, level 50 you do 1.5 million damage, level 100 you're in the quintillions, and how many other numbers we can fit into it. And again, when this works, it is a very effective progression model, as we have seen with all the mobile games that have made use of it. Now, when you're locking essential mechanics and skills behind a progression or story gate, again, it's that same kind of feeling that, hey, the player is going to appreciate now they can double jump, and now they can quadruple jump, and now they can septuple jump, and they can have instant fall and all these crazy abilities. But you see, here's the problem. When you design your game at the start to be frustrating or limiting, the player is not going to be thinking, oh, well, this will all be corrected in 30 hours, 60 hours, whatever. They're just thinking, why is this game so frustrating to play? Why am I having to do all this annoying busy work? And why am I just not enjoying this? And it's a very, I think, interesting counterpoint to how mobile games and live service have evolved. As I've said, one of the major aspects of the mobile onboarding and kind of tutorialization is that they are designed to remove all the pain points and get you as quickly and as acclimated to the game as fast as possible. If you haven't completed the tutorial in a mobile game in 5 to 10 minutes, something is dreadfully wrong. And within 30 minutes to an hour, you should have known or have seen every major system, every major unlock that you're going to be using for the next, 8 to 12 months of the game. Because developers know that time is very precious. And a very common thing we've been talking about in a lot of our discussions lately is to respect the player's time. The days in which you can say that, oh, this game has 500 hours of gameplay, and this game has 100 hours of gameplay, well, 500 is higher than 100, so that's the better game. You tell someone today that your game has at least 600 hours of gameplay, they're probably going to run for the hills. And a lot of this, again, is what is going on in that core gameplay loop. If you can actually fit 500 hours of original, unique, and fantastic gameplay in your title, more power to you. But more likely than not, a lot of that time is going to be spent doing very annoying things, very kind of busy work style things. And that is not how you want to build your game. So, as I said at the start, I played several Metroidvanias over the end of 2022, and about at least 3 of them had the same issue. So I have a very special message to all the Metroidvania designers watching this right now. Come on, get a little closer. I promise I won't bite you. Alright, are you close? Stop having separate points for saving and fast travel. It doesn't work anymore. Especially when you have like 70 different save points and 5 fast travel points. The idea of locking save point fast travel to an upgrade or research later on, it's just frustrating now. Especially when you design levels to be very wide and massive. And this is one of those areas where a lot of games will lose people. When you tell them, hey, you have to walk 20 minutes over there, then take an upgrade 30 minutes over here, then go 15 minutes down here, then go another 10 minutes over here, and then we go back over here at the start. And I have played games that have literally done that. If you remember that game, what was it, the Tower of Mu, and I'm forgetting the whole title of it. One of the sections of this game, and I'm not kidding, is you go all the way up, to go all the way back down, to go all the way back up, and I think you have to go all the way back down one more time in order to then move the story forward. And like we've said, people's times are precious now. If you are not getting them invested in your game within 5, 10 minutes, 20 seconds, 3 seconds of loading your title up, you're going to lose them and they're never coming back. This is why the opening of your game is so important. If you want to do something cute or clever, like making the start feel frustrating, let's say it's a platform where you don't unlock the power to jump at the start, that should not be a 20-minute ordeal. It shouldn't even be a 5-minute ordeal. Remember, the goal of good progression in your game is that the player should start off good, and then they keep getting better from there. It's not starting at negative 30, and then in an hour, be at 0. And there's another really good example of this I want to talk about. There's a difference between the player gating themselves in terms of what they can and can't do, and the game forcing that on you. So the example that I want to talk about are the 3D Mario games. Nintendo has had a very understated brilliance when it comes to their level and environmental design, is that the levels are designed around multiple skill levels. If you are a super beginner, you have never touched a Mario game, or you are top 10 world speedrunning at a Mario game, both extremes and everyone in between can get through a level. Yes, the casual player is going to take longer, they're going to do things slower, but their path through a level is just as valid as the speedrunner doing triple spin, cappy, jump, bounce, cancel, spin, cappy, jump around these levels. And the point is that the game does not cap, no pun intended, the player's skill at any point. Imagine playing a Mario game where all of Mario's jumps are locked to progression from the start. Everyone starts with the ability to walk, run, single jump. That's it. No other moves, no other abilities. On one hand, the progression curve is now even. Everyone has to progress at the same level. On the other hand, it is going to make that game incredibly boring, and it's going to frustrate people who are already good at the game. You don't want to lock or handicap one segment of your player base, and again, it makes things a lot more frustrating. With the idea that the player themselves is the cap or the limiter, it means that those players can grow. The beauty of a Mario game, from a progression point of view, is that while both groups, casual and hardcore, are starting at different skill levels, the game, through its design, will onboard them so that eventually the casual players, they may not become, pro master speedrunners, but they will know the same tricks, they will have access and knowledge of the same mechanics as expert players. So that again, when you get to the final, or should I say final, challenge in a Mario game, everyone should be ready and raring to go to be able to do it. Another good example of this, and from another game that I played lately, is one of the reasons why I'm having issues with Atrio the Dark Wild. This is a logistics style game where you are trapped in a world where everything is trying to kill you, and your only solution is to logistics your way to freedom. So the game obviously draws parallels to the likes of Factorio, Dyson Sphere, and so on. The problem the game has is that it locks so much of the fun of these kinds of games behind the progression and the story. So that when you start playing, you literally cannot actually set up full automation for a lot of your basic stuff, because the game does not give you those tools. This is not the same as a game like Factorio, which Factorio is infinitely more complicated. There's a lot more things going on with it. But what they do is that the progression is tied to the player. When you start playing Factorio, it is, again, a slow and annoying thing to do when you have to chop trees by hand and mine coal and iron by hand. It is frustrating to do. No one wants to do that. So your first goal is automate the heck out of that so you never have to do anything manually regarding that ever again. It's a worthwhile goal because it's something that is personal to the player. This thing annoys me. I have the tools to get rid of this thing. Let's do that. Let's put 1 and 1 together and get 2. And the only limitations in this respect is how far the player is willing to go. Yes, a game like Factorio and Dyson Sphere, they do lock things behind their progression and their tech trees. But they also know that the player needs the base level in order to get going. Essential features like being able to have sorters and conveyor belts and being able to do things automatically, that's there very early. It's pretty much within the first 5 to 10 minutes of either one of those games. In Atrio, I'm at the point about 2 to 3 hours in, I still don't have sorters. I still can't set certain things that I've unlocked in order to automate them, so I'm not having to constantly babysit them. And you can argue that that is part of the story progression. But when you tell me that, yes, I have to do all this logistics and automation, but then tell me that no, you're not allowed to do these logistics and automation, somewhere there's a wire cross. So to wrap things up for this critical thought, you want to get the player into your core gameplay loop as quickly and as effortlessly as possible. Anything that restricts, hinders, or just stops them from doing it needs to be very scrutinized and either removed or reduced. You shouldn't have to test the player to build 99 springs before you unlock the automatic spring making device. Look for ways that the game itself can provide onboarding, and you want the player again to feel like they are making progress. If they have to stop what they're doing and do something that feels like busy work or is annoying, or that takes a long time or a very long time to start enjoying your game, that is not good progression. Again, you do not want anyone to describe your game as the real game begins in 10 hours, 30 hours, 100 hours. And while some developers and games can get away with that with an interesting or unique story, a lot of people are going to check out. And this is again the biggest warning about hiding the fun. The easiest way to churn people from your game and make them just go, I'm never playing this again, is to have a frustrating or confusing beginning. If you want to have very complicated and very challenging stuff, you can make that at the mid to late game. But when people are brand new, they don't want to feel like they have to struggle to play your game. And it's why so much has been done to improve onboarding and UI UX over the past decade. If people enjoy your game at the start, they're more willing to keep playing, and even if something annoys them, even if you do have some annoying UI UX issues 10, 15, 20 hours in, they're already invested at that point to keep playing. If they're being annoyed 10 seconds in, guess what? Steam has a very easy to use refund policy. They can switch to any other game in their library. They are not locked to yours. So again, the days in which you can kind of hold a gameplay's main gameplay loop hostage, or the fun hostage, are over. If you can again build the 100-hour every second is a mile-a-minute joyride, go for it. But if you have to fill 100 hours of game with 60 hours of filler, annoyances, backtracking, and so on, it may just be better just to make that a 40-hour game. Again, people aren't going to complain that your game is not worth $50 or $20 if they don't get at least 800 hours of gameplay. And if they do complain about that, they're probably not going to be satisfied no matter what you do. Oh, this game only has 800 hours? Well, why doesn't it have 2,000 hours of gameplay? So again, for any developers out there, what's stopping you from just making all your games at least 2,000 hours minimum of gameplay? Let me know in the comments down below. But thank you so much for watching. Be sure to do the liking, subscribing, and commenting. Check out the Discord and Patreon. And if you're interested in my books on design, they are available, well, wherever books are being sold. Come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where you examine the art and science of games.